So I can't control who I am or my future. I don't want to give that up. We have to remember, control is all a trick of the mind. It's a trick of the ego. It's an attachment. It's not real. We think we're somebody doing something. We think we're in control. We think we know. Anytime we're attached, even to control, we're limiting our perspective. We're kept in lower perspective. Remember, higher self, the divine self, God, is the observer, is standing in the center of the circle. Stand in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course. This is telling us there is no control. Remember, anything that happens was always going to happen because it happens. And there's only one thing that's ever going to happen. So the control is an illusion. Choice is an illusion, really, because that's the same with sin. How can we be sinners if we can only ever make one decision based off of our chemistry or conditioning level of understanding? We can only ever make one decision. We were never going to make another decision because everything that happens was always going to happen because it happens. So anytime we're attached, anytime we think we have control, what happens when we think we have control? What happens when we have expectations? Do your work and step back from the Tao Te Ching also. That's telling us to give up expectations because we have no control. When you think you have control, you're attached. You're in the ego. And whenever you're in the ego, whenever you have any attachments, you're going to be held in lower perspectives. And when you're held in lower perspectives, you're not going to be able to see the truth. And you're not going to be able to doing your highest good. You're not going to be higher self. You're blocking the higher self. Remember, the ego is the guard at the gate to the divine. The ego is guarding us from being our divine self. We are God observing itself. The ego and our emotions and the illusion of control get in the way of that. We're getting caught in the illusion. That's all it is. That's all the ego and control is us getting caught in the illusion. We have to give it all up to become our higher selves, to become the divine flowing through us. If we want divine understanding, if we want divine perspective, if we want divine action, we have to give it all up, all of our attachments. Otherwise, we're going to be caught in the ego. We're going to be stuck in lower perspectives. It's all a game. It's all part of the illusion. We have to empty the mind. This is why we're constantly bombarded with chaos and fear and stimulation and aggravators. The aggravators, that's why they're so important, because whenever we're stimulated or aggravated in the mind, we're going to be stuck in cycles of thought. What happens when we're stuck in cycles of thought? We're trapped in the ego. And when we're in the ego, we think we have control. We're attached. When we're in the ego, we think we know. What happens when we think we know? When you think you know, you're trapped. If you think you know something, you are trapped in the illusion and you're going to be held in lower perspective. If you think you know, this is your perspective. This is higher self. This is your perspective if you think you know. And guess what? You will never see the truth. There's always a higher perspective. And the highest perspective is standing in the center of the circle and letting all things take their course. Not being attached to anything. Not being attached to control. Control is an illusion. Because whatever happens was always going to happen. Remember, we're just nature running off. Why does all these spiritual works tell us to give it all up, to surrender? Because they're telling us there is no control. Because we need to surrender to God if we want to be, we are God observing itself, right? If we want to be that, we need to give it all up, all of our attachments, even control. Because that's the hardest one of the hardest ones to get up. That's why I just made the video, the burden of control, the great illusion. Right? Control. Because we think, what happens when we think we can control? What happens when we get mad? What happens when we get mad? We're mad at the only thing that was ever going to happen. We're not being the observer, right? We're not being the observer if we're getting mad about something, or if we're in a hurry. We're in a hurry. We think there's somewhere else to be. There's nowhere else to be. There's nowhere else to be but right here, right now. Always be present. Always. That's the only thing there is to do, is to be present. If we want to be our higher selves, if we want to be the divine, if we want to receive divine understanding of how this world works, we need to empty the mind, because That's God. We don't need to read more books. We don't need to watch more videos. Thank you for watching this video. But some videos obviously can help, and some books can help, depending where we're at. But I'm at the point right now where I don't read any books. I've read enough books, and I got the point. The point is presence and purification and God's love. It's to empty the mind. Because the divine will give you all the answers you will ever need. And how do we get those divine answers? We have to stop blocking the channels of communication, which is what? Which is the ego, which is thought. Getting caught in cycles of thought. So we have to remove the aggravators. We got to facilitate a state of peace, right? We have to reconstitute the mind. We have to empty the mind of everything we've learned. We got to empty it. We got to get rid of it. What does school do? School pumps you full of thought. School makes you think you're somebody and you know. It destroys our creativity. It destroys our common sense because it makes us a cog in the machine, and it wants to keep our perspectives lower. Because why? When we're stuck in our ego, when we think we know, when we think we have control, when we think we're somebody doing something, we're easy to control. They use the aggravators. They use the stimulation of the mind. They use the ego. They feed our egos to destroy our common sense and our creativity and our connection to the divine. They keep us in lower perspective so we can never be the highest perspectives and see everything and take it all in. So remember, to dissolve the ego, to dissolve all of our attachments is presence. How do we begin that journey? Meditation. Meditation teaches us how to be present. And then we realize that we need to carry that through our entire lives all the time. No matter what we're doing, we should try to be present. And if we're having trouble being present, what do we have to do? We have to balance. We have to purify the body because a lot of our chemistry is aggravating that we're taking in. We have to facilitate a state of peace in every conceivable way. Anything we're taking in, we want to try to be peaceful. Eventually, we can transcend it so no matter what we're doing, we'll be present and it won't bother us. But to start, we're going to have to remove some aggravators. We're going to have to facilitate a state of peace. We're going to have to reconstitute the mind. What does that mean? I have a video on that if you're interested on my YouTube and my TikTok. Reconstitute the mind means you need to empty the mind. You got to stop taking in information to empty the mind. If you want to receive divine understanding and divine guidance, you got to let it all go. You got to let go all of attachments. You got to stop trying to seek information because we don't need to seek any information. Information will be given to us once we open up our channels and surrender. So remember, the goal is always to be in the center of the circle and observe and not be attached to anything. It's hard to say, what do you mean I don't have control? What do you mean? I understand that. It's very hard. Presence is a practice. It's undoing all of our programming we've been bombarded with our whole life. It's undoing the public school system. Why can't people see the truth about things that are common sense? Like not injecting toxic pharmaceuticals into babies. Why can't we see, even though that's common sense, not to do that? And to not eat processed or even cooked food. No animal processes or cooks their food. But people can't see that. Why? Because everybody thinks they know. Because they're stuck in their ego. Because the public school system feeds your ego to make you think you're somebody. Attachments. To make you think you have control. Attachments. Right? To make you think you know. When you think you know, you're trapped. It's all part of the illusion. So to break free from this illusion, imagine if the whole world were standing in the center of the circle and was their divine highest self. Imagine that. How peaceful. We'd live in an absolute utopia. No violence, no wars, no corruption. So this is why I teach this. This is the most important thing in the world. The divine has chosen me. I didn't think I was remember this. No, we don't have no control anyway. I was always going to end up here making this video, teaching you guys, talking about this. So thank you for joining me. Remember, it's practicing presence and purification. I am God's eternal love pouring forth unconditional love. Namaste.